Today I'm going to give you 20 tips and tricks for Whiteout Survival that are so shockingly easy and so shockingly valuable, you won't believe that you haven't been doing these things the entire time. For example, do you need more resources? Well, here's a quick little hack. In the upper left, there's an arrow. You tap it, and you go to the growth section, and you can give yourself a buff for 100% gathering speed. 100% gathering speed is a huge boost to your gathering speed. It costs you 600 gems every day that you're going to go and do this. It is super worthwhile. The value of the resources is there. And even if you're free to play, those players are smashing gems on this as well and getting a ton of value gathering up resources. That's trick number one. Trick number two, want more loot? Man, I can't believe I wasn't doing this, but when you head on over to the rally screen, they have an auto join feature. You literally can send troops to automatically join rallies. Now, I explained this way in depth in another video, but the way this works is once the rally timer gets down to 4 minutes, auto joiners can then join the rally, and you select what you want to join the rally with or which rallies you want to join. Is it Gina's Revenge, the Polar Terrors? You can even select the number of troops you want to join with. So if you don't have many and you want to join lots of rallies potentially at a time, you can just set it to one troop and it'll send one troop to each rally. You can get loot from every single one of those rallies you join up to the limit of 50 Polar Terrors and 50 Gina's Revenge per day. And GG, I can't believe how many hours I spent just sitting there joining rallies at the start of the game when I could have just freaking auto-joined. And sure, okay, there is a 1 minute window where the rally could fill up before you have a chance to join. I get that, okay? But auto-join is insane. Best use of this, by the way, is if you're going to be gathering resources and like go to work for the day. You send out your gatherers, and then when you come home, okay, many hours later, the gatherers have come home, but then they're still auto-joining rallies and you're getting value. Insane. That's trick number two. Tip number three here is going to be about training troops. And although training troops might be the fastest way to gain power in the game, training lots of troops is widely regarded as a foolish choice. There's a number of reasons why that's the case. First of all, if you have lots of troops beyond your infirmary's capacity, if your city were to get attacked, the infirmary could overflow. When that happens, all those troops that are excess end up dying. Now, there's a way to get them back through this building over here called the enlistment office. But the point I'm trying to make is that the general guidance is that it's a noob move to train lots of troops. Instead, your better bet is to do a number of other things. For example, you can upgrade your troops from lower tiers to higher tiers. So I actually don't think I have any lower tier troops in my city at this exact moment, but if they were here, you tap that little up arrow, and that's how you go promote a tier that is not your highest tier of troop to your highest tier of troop. It is always better to do that rather than to train new troops, with the exception of like, if you didn't have that many to upgrade, and then you're going to have your troop training building idle for some amount of time. Don't do that, all right? And while we're talking about defending your city, here's a little bonus trick. You can go and set the heroes that will defend your city. It's at the barricade over here. You tap city defense, select the heroes you want to defend your city, and also you can tap this button, Garrison heroes do not depart from your city, if you want to make sure that you don't accidentally run them out to go gathering. Because how silly would that be if your best heroes are out gathering and then your city gets attacked? Big freaking yikes. Your cities, if your heroes are not in your city when it gets attacked, they don't defend your city. So yeah, this is a move you can make and I think is perfectly reasonable, especially if you think there is a chance your city will get attacked. On the topic of gaining power, and let's talk about gaining power fast. There's a couple buffs you can get that are absolutely insane. And although the majority of your buffs for research speed, building speed, training speed are going to come from here. Technically, it's actually the growth section of the tree. Don't ignore these, by the way. I mean, this is, I think, pretty obvious, but like huge amounts of research speed, huge amounts of training speed and training capacity. That's the number of troops you can train at a time, but training speed. I mean, just this one thing is giving me 30% training speed. That's insane. But there are heroes that give passive boosts to those things as well. And these are amazing, okay? Those heroes include Zinman, it includes Jasser, it includes a couple others. I'm going to show you these bonuses, all right? So if we go over to the hero's skills, anytime there's a hero skill with a green hammer, that is a benefit typically, that passively applies all the time. So for example, this one right over here gives you a construction cost reduction and a construction speed boost. Dude, Zinman is so good for this. Even if you don't use him, okay, if you're a low spender, free to play, but you gain access to him and put some amount of stars into him to get this skill, it is super, super valuable. Now, on the topic of the purple heroes, there's actually a bunch of really valuable ones. I pointed to Jasser moments ago because you can get a 15% research speed boost. Bro, that is a huge boost to research speed. Now, it is important to mention that in order to get a skill to a certain level, you have to have the prior star level. In other words, to get a 5-star skill, you need a 4-star hero, okay? To get a level 4 skill, you would need at least a 3-star hero. You see where this is going? To get a level 2 skill, you need at least a 1-star hero. Okay. Next hero that's got a crazy boost that you're going to want to take advantage of is going to be Xiao Yun. She gives a healing speed boost, but perhaps more important is Ling Zhu because she gives a training speed boost. Now, this is actually less important at the very start of the game because the reality is you're going to have your troop training building idle a fair amount anyways. You train troops pretty quickly, but once you start to be able to train for longer periods of time, man, these passive boosts are pretty dang good. And then don't forget the gathering heroes, these blue heroes. They've got passive skills that I think are like fine. Passively, they produce your resource production. And then when you actually have them in the army that goes out to gather, they also give a gathering speed boost. All right, so these are really big boosts. Big tip there is to go upgrade those. But one thing you may not have noticed that is really critical, if we go out to the world map, you can see in the upper left after you've joined an alliance, there's a calendar. And okay, there's nothing on my task list right now, which is actually kind of crazy because normally there are so many things to do. In fact, as the alliance leader here, I can go and schedule the bear trap. One of the things that you're going to want to do every single time that this thing is on cooldown. But once I've set this, it shows up in the calendar. So when there's alliance events, they are going to show up over here in part. I say in part because also alliance events will show up in the events section over here. You do not want to miss alliance events. Be sure to check out the calendar, participate in your alliance events. There are ridiculous amounts of rewards to go and get, particularly the bear trap is every 2 days. Super, super valuable. You get a lot of really valuable stuff. Now, the other thing that's really neat in the interface that you might not even notice is that if you tap your power and then tap the power text in the middle here, the button, you can see that you actually get a breakdown of your power relative to other players in your state and just overall how you're looking. So my account, which is 5.5 weeks old at this point, I'm 73 million power. If you're getting value from this video, consider subscribing if you want to see some whaled content. I am whaling in this game. But this gives you a breakdown of your building power, your troop power, your hero power, all these different things relative to other people in your state, which is a really interesting comparison to say like, gosh, is there any one area where I'm really falling behind that could be a really disproportionate way for me to gain power and gain strength? Very, very strong to go in and have this understanding. Now, as I mentioned, I've been whaling in this game, and one of the things I learned very quickly is that not all bundles are created equal, and it would take an entire video to do a breakdown on how do you evaluate these different bundles. But, you know, the thing that most people look at is they say, oh, well, what's the percent value? And while that is really helpful to say, oh, this is 1,400%, and the other bundle was 2,400%, or 2,000%, or 2,560%, just because it gives a percent number here doesn't mean it is the best for you. So as we were talking about with regard to your sort of power and the breakdown of where that power is coming from, you might need certain things. Like in the early game, you might need resources, but one thing that late game players often do is they'll notice all these resources in the bundle, and that they sort of count that against the bundle when they go to buy it. Because sure, resources are good, but if you don't need them anymore, then that percentage of value is not really there for you. Another thing that late game players disregard completely, but early game players crave and need tons of is going to be mythic exploration manuals and also mythic expedition skill manuals. I've had many people say to me like, bro, those are so easy to get. You're going to have so many of them. Don't worry about it. At the same time, I am struggling to get them even though I'm spending. And so like that advice is true later in the game, but not early in the game. So pay attention to what is actually in the bundle and what value it is really giving you. And I will point out that like, look, important to mention, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, but consider your financial priorities before you spend in a mobile game. I enjoy spending disposable income when I'm spending in a mobile game, but consider staying out of debt and getting out of debt, having an emergency fund, planning for retirement, and so many other things. You do your investigations. I'm not a financial advisor, not financial advice. All right. Back on topic though, for tips and tricks for gaining power. We talked about how bundles are obviously a way you can gain a lot of power really, really quickly. I have done that here. But there are other things that can make you very, very powerful in combat. And I didn't even realize this. And I did not realize this is the way the game works. But if we head on over to the command center and we look at the details, you can see here that this sets your rally capacity. Well, I thought, oh, so when I set a rally on something, that's my capacity. Kind of. But the rally capacity is actually the number you're getting over here plus your troop deployment capacity. So there's two bonuses. They smash them together, and that's the amount of troops that could actually be in a rally if I launch one right now. But not only that, but also if I were defending a building. In other words, if I go out in the world map and I reinforce a building, like say our fortress, okay, over here, our headquarters, the amount of troops that could reinforce the building, if I'm the captain, is going to be my number of my rally capacity and my deployment capacity. So what I didn't realize is that not only does my deployment capacity make it so that when I send an army out in the world, I can bring more troops, but also if I'm the captain, then also the troop capacity is higher. This is a very powerful thing. Most players are not focused on being the rally captain or garrison captain, but it took me a long time to understand that that is how the game works. In fact, the game will take, when you're on defense, whichever player has the most stats and make them the stat giver, and the captain is the one who determines the number of troops that can be in that garrison. Really interesting stuff, all right? Now, one thing you'll want to have if you're rallying, you're garrisoning, or even filling a rally or a garrison, of course, is the right heroes. And one thing that you can do with your heroes, even if you have not invested in them, to push your progress is to just switch them around and see if you can do better. Now, I know that might sound really weird, and past a certain point in your progression, that won't matter anymore. But even up to level like 370 or so, I could go into this exploration game mode and I could just switch to heroes I hadn't even worked on at all, put them in the lineup, and end up doing better. So each of these heroes has very unique and distinct things that they're doing in this game mode. And my recommendation to a beginning player is that I know, because I just was one, there's so much to take in. There's so much to learn. It's hard to unpack exactly what's happening in these battles until you start to really understand what each hero is doing. And until you understand what each hero is doing, you can just try lots of different heroes, lots of different combos, and you will be shocked, again, how many times switching something out, moving it around will actually get you a better result. And why does this exploration game mode matter? Because you are going to passively accumulate more hero experience. You're going to get hero gear, which is topic of a separate video, but more importantly, you're going to be getting steel, and you need this steel to do research, which is very, very critical for getting many buffs, but also talking about that deployment capacity again, which is like really, really good and very important for people that are rallying and garrisoning. But we go into the research center, there's battle research for that, man. Boom, regimental expansion, which is great for when you send your armies out, and if you're a captain, critical. So I was skipping this, not realizing like, oh my gosh, this particular research is actually critical for me because I am a rally lead, I am a garrison captain, GG. Another game mode where you use your heroes, okay, and it uses those exploration skills is actually going to be in the arena. And my recommendation to you for the arena is to do your attacks 5 minutes before reset. Okay, reset is at 0 UTC. And the problem, if you push a bunch of rank right before, or in fact, right after reset has just happened, is that you'll use up all your attempts, you'll shoot up on the leaderboard, and then you are going to be a really juicy target for people to attack. In other words, the amount of points you get in this game mode is based on the difference of your rankings. So if you gain a lot of rank really early in the day and you're lower power, for example, you're going to be a really juicy target to hit. So you don't want to do that. So if you min-max on this thing, the reality is that in like the last 5 to 10 minutes before reset, right? So that's, 2350 UTC is the best time to do your attacks so that you can gain a bunch of rank at the end and not expose yourself as much to being sniped. Now, one thing you can do, by the way, that's really neat to decrease the amount of time you sit around waiting for the result is you actually can back out of the battle. So let me just attack somebody real quick and I can show this to you. Who do I want to hit here? None of these guys. I'm going to use a refresh. Sure, we'll hit this dude. Someone who has clearly pushed way higher on the leaderboard than they can sustain based on their power, okay? And I'm going to hit fight on this person, but if I just back out of it, okay, I hit the pause button, I hit retreat, I get my result instantly. This is not going to seem like a tip or trick to you as a new player to the game because you're going to actually enjoy watching these. But like after about 3 weeks, you're going to be really happy, to just back out rather than to sit there watching the entire thing. Okay. And again, there are these players that like clearly have pushed too soon or being avoided by other people that are in their alliance or whatever. They're ranked way higher than they ought to be for their power. That leaves them like and I got nothing against this person, but like they're very exposed to someone like me who has double their power to just show up and be like, thank you for the free points. Right. So push later in the day rather than early in the day to avoid making yourself an easy victim of getting robbed of points. Because if you are on defense and you win, you don't get anything. But if you're on defense and you lose, you actually have half of the points the enemy gained, you get them stripped away from you, which sucks. So, in an example, if I attack somebody and I gain 10 points, they're probably losing 5. GG. So do your arena battles toward the end of the day, and that will save you a lot of heartache. If you can believe it, well, I've already done more than 13 tips and tricks. Technically, it's like 13 categories of tips and tricks, but this next category of tips and tricks is going to be for your survivors and their well-being. And this is actually just insane because like, I don't know how I ever would have found this unless someone had explained it to me, which is that I went into my cookhouse, that place where your survivors get fed. And there's those like, little bars over there next to production. And you should just select fancy meal. And that's it. You just select fancy meal. It's an irrelevant amount of extra food cost to you. And now your survivors are less hungry. You're welcome. Because as it turns out, one thing you may not have known is if you tap the little survivor icon all the way near the top center with the little face, and for me, it's 32 out of 32 survivors, you bring up this menu to look at where all your survivors are working, how many are sick, how many are resting, and you're going to want to assign your survivors to these different buildings. But if you go to the details section, it gives this breakdown of like, hey, here's how your survivors are doing. And there's actually 2 categories of stats that you've got over here. One is the health condition. The next is their comfort or happiness, okay? And if we look just under the health condition, this is based on how warm they are, the temperature, how hungry they are, which we just addressed how you fix that, and how well rested they are, sleep quality, okay? On the other side of the equation, we've got their happiness, which is a blend of their comfort and also their mood. Now, there are things you can do that will really piss off your survivors and make them very tired. We don't need to go in depth on how that works for now. One little trick I do want to give you, though, because this is a tips and tricks video, is you can just go into your furnace. Mine looks different than yours because I have a cosmetic going here. But you want to set to max power and then never look at this ever again. Okay? Set this to max power, never look at this ever again, and never run yourself out of coal. Make sure you have coal production as well, because if you do run out of coal, your survivors will freeze and it sucks. Trust me, on my first playthrough, I had a ton of survivors die because I ran out of coal and I had no way to get more because on that free-to-play test account that I was goofing around on, I didn't have enough VIP to go buy coal. So long story short, you do want to turn this up, but also make sure you don't run out of coal. The other way that you can address the sort of comfort and mood, I think mood of your survivors, is that there's a bunch of little upgrades that you'll notice in these buildings. I got them all max, so I can't show you is like cleanly. But some of these will require steel to upgrade and are not required to upgrade the building. In other words, certain upgrades will be required to take the building to the next level, and other upgrades are optional. Those optional upgrades that cost steel, they generally contribute to a survivor's comfort or well-being or health. So for example, this is a mini heater. The mini heater, as it is indicating here, gives warmth. Warm survivors are more likely to live and be healthy. So you can see this gives sleep quality. The rug, because they're sleeping on the floor apparently. Or this over here is improving their mood. It's a clothing rack, right? And then I think this might actually have just been required. I don't think the toilet was an optional one. But yeah, a higher level toilet means more comfortable. Give them a bidet and they'll work tirelessly for you. All right, so this next trick is going to blow your mind, which is that when you set a rally as a rally lead, you have skills from your heroes that apply to combat. And you're going to figure that out. It's the expedition skills, okay? All your expedition skills will apply. So if I swing on over to the right place over here, if I rallied with Geronimo, his expedition skills would apply to that. Okay, expedition is when you're out on the world map. Exploration is when you are in the exploration game mode in the arena. Two separate sets of skills, okay? But if I were to set a rally, all of my expedition skills from all of the heroes I'm bringing will be contributed. So for example, let's go find a Polar Terror, level 5, smash rally. Got my preset to do that with. Okay, so if I were to look in on this rally and get a closer look, you can see here all the different skills that are coming from me as the rally captain for this rally. But there are 4 hero skills contributed by rally members. This is a big deal. And I'm going to explain this a little bit, although I've got a full video breaking this down. Understanding this will be critical to your long-term success in the game. But at some point, you will learn that you are either a rally lead or a rally joiner. And when you are a rally joiner, you want to select a hero in the first position, I'll show you what I mean by that, that has a skill that is relevant to the rally or the garrison that you are joining. Okay? So the first position hero, you can see is the one all the way on the left. For me, it was Geronimo, the mythic tier hero, the infantry hero. You can see Musbius just joined the rally, and they brought only Jesse, okay? And that hero contributes their first expedition skill to the rally. Oh, I got other joiners. Remember how I told you auto-join at the 4-minute mark is going to send people in? All right, so let's talk about this. So this is a great joiner skill. 25% damage dealt. Love to see it for a rally. This is a great one. Jasser, 20% damage dealt for the rally. Amazing. These 2 joiner skills are really bad. Now, for a Polar Terror, it doesn't matter, so this is fine. But stuns are just generally very unimpressive for performance of a rally. For whatever reason, I can't say, but I know that the performance is, compared to a damage boost, not as good. So I mention this because the sort of mid to end game, you're going to realize that, oh my gosh, so much of what you're doing is elevating the strength of a rally or a garrison by joining with the right thing. And so again, it's whichever hero you put in the first position in your lineup. So you select 3 heroes, whichever one's in that first spot. And, oh, we took out the mammoth. GG, get wrecked. And the skill that gets contributed is the one that's in the upper right. Okay, I have it selected over here. The upper right expedition skill is the one that gets contributed from the first hero in your group of heroes that you're sending to join. So learning how to be a rally joiner and a garrison joiner is going to be a big deal. And if you can say to a alliance leader, hey, I know how to rally join properly, if they understand the game, they will be like, come on in. Welcome aboard, right? Welcome aboard. I would know because I run an alliance and we're the strongest alliance by power in our state. And like, I can show you that on the leaderboard, okay? Here's the leaderboard. Welcome to the Smash Squad, all right? That's us. So the point that I'm making here is that this is a very powerful tip to learn rally joining and garrison joining. You don't have to know it now. But again, just to illustrate this, right? If I'm going to rally another Polar Terror, which I don't plan to, but it's the first hero, the one that's got the little flag on him, okay? In this case, it's Geronimo, all the way on the left, okay? Just to make it really clear, okay? It's that guy all the way on the left. That's the one that is contributing the upper right skill. And just to make it like really, really clear, because people mess this up all the time. The skill that's being contributed is this one all the way up here in the upper right. 25% damage dealt. Woo! Big boost, okay? Rally joining, garrisoning joining, big deal. Now for this next grouping of tips and tricks, if this is your first city building war game, and for me this isn't, I've done city building war games on YouTube for like 6 years now, so consider subscribing to this channel. It's dedicated to Whiteout Survival. I'm going to give you the information you need and crave. Hero guides, the whole 9 yards, everything you need. Subscribe. But what you need to know is a couple things. First, little tip and trick, okay, for you when you think about your queues. You've got building queues, research queues, you've got troop training queues. If I were about to go to bed, I obviously would not want to leave my troop training queues like this, speed it up, then queue up fresh so that I'm not wasting all that time overnight with the queues doing nothing, okay? Maximize the time your queues are in action. Another example of this is that if you're upgrading a troop training building, if you're upgrading your research center to a new level, okay, those buildings, they can't operate. You can't do research when your research building is upgrading. You can't train troops when your troop training buildings are upgrading. So the point I'm making is that those are buildings where you actually want to speed up those buildings. You might wait for a few helps. Helps, like you can see over here, I smashed this button. It's going to reduce the time it takes for somebody to build or heal or do research. But even if you don't wait for all the helps that you could get, which by the way, if you go in to your alliance, there's like a number of ways to see this, but you can go to helps. You could see I'm 51 out of 51 helps on my research over here. Okay. Also, when you go to speed up, something like research, it'll show you, right? Those little hands that are holding, okay, like this, or I don't know, like this, whatever. I'm 51 out of 51. So I've been helped the maximum number of times. You can see the number of times you can be helped goes up a lot. But for these buildings, you may not want to wait depending on how fast the helps are coming in. Because if you just sit here and let the building upgrade without speeding it up, what's the problem? As I mentioned, you can't do research, you can't train troops. That means, by the way, if I use building speed ups to upgrade this building, and instead of waiting, let's say I use 10 hours of building speed ups. Well, not only do I finish the building 10 hours sooner, but for those 10 hours, now I'm training troops. You see the value? It's double duty, baby. You get double value on your speed ups because not only do you finish the building faster, you train troops faster. You finish the research center faster, you're doing research sooner. So if I speed up 10 hours worth of building on this thing, then 10 hours sooner, I can potentially be doing research. All that time I'm researching when I wouldn't have been. It's kind of like double duty on speed ups. I know that's not how speed ups actually work, but I think you get the idea here. 2x value is always a big winner in my book. And the other thing to keep in mind if you're new to this genre is that you can check the event calendar and there's just going to be a ton of events and you won't know what the majority of these are as a brand new player. Don't worry, I'm making guides on every single one of these. So you can just look up School Whiteout Survival and the name of the event and you'll have a guide there for you. But the point I'm making is that you can at times double dip or triple dip on events and get like just tons and tons of value. As an example, very recently, I spent 1.5 million gems and I made it to VIP 11. And I spent every one of those gems just straight up into VIP, which was insane. It was a crazy video. I'll put it in the end screen if you want to go watch it. It was really fun. But the point I'm making is that I triple dipped on events. Maybe I double dipped for that particular one. But like, I didn't just spend the gems on the VIP just because I wanted to do it. I did it because A, it was good for the account. B, also there was an event for every certain amount of gems I spent. I got some extra speed ups and other value. It was a holiday event. And often there are events like Alliance Mobilization that you may not know what that is now, but just trust me, you can get like 2 or even 3 events at once that all want you to spend gems. Beautiful, right? Like try to get all those things to line up when you go in, spend your gems, spend your speed ups, etc. And there's a bunch of events that show up, so you'd be surprised how often you can do this. And, on the topic, okay, of doing, a bunch of speeding up, there's one thing that I like really misunderstood, and this is not genre specific, but it's specific to this game, double time, okay? As you're leveling up your furnace, which is the building you should focus, by the way, like focus level your furnace. Ignore everything that's not required to do your furnace mostly. But you're going to get this thing double time, which gives you a 20% boost to your sort of construction speed for 5 minutes. This is insane. This is so powerful. So once you have this unlocked, you pretty much want to use this every day. That's the cooldown. Whenever you're queuing up big buildings and you want your building upgrades to line up with double time. I did not realize that, and I could have saved a bunch of days of speed ups. Let me tell you. Double time is completely gangbuster. You want to be using this literally every day. It requires this currency over here. It's called, I think it's contentment in order to use, but you can even gem it if you need to. And like the gems are spent here is cheaper than the speed ups. It's insane. You also gain this passively by having your survivors work in production buildings. So like, that's the way you're going to get your contentment. And let me tell you, this is like one of the biggest savings to speed ups that you're going to get if you didn't know that worked. On the topic of savings, let's talk about heroes. Only level up 5 heroes. I made a whole video about the drill camp. Okay. And I talk about how it is that you can use this building to level up all your other heroes. So I've only leveled up these 5 heroes, and all the heroes I put in the bottom part of the drill camp get taken to the lowest level of the 5 highest level heroes that I have. So these are my 5 highest level heroes. The lowest among them is 72. So all these guys are 72. So you want all your hero experience to go in 5 heroes. Doesn't need to be these 5, just 5 heroes. And you could always reset a hero later if you want. I've done that a number of times. So there's no downfall to this. So even if you messed it up, reset those heroes, focus on the 5, and you're good to go. Okay? Easy peasy. Drill Center, man. I think it unlocks at furnace level 13. All right. And now back on topic with like general advice for the city building wargame genre. But some people are like bag opening completionists and like they have resource tokens, so they open them all. That's a terrible idea. Yes, there are things in your bags that you should mess with in the other section and you should open them up and claim the goodies from them. You'll start to learn what those things are. But one of the things you should never do is just open up all your all your resources. And the reason you should never open all your resources is that the majority of these will not be protected and they can be stolen by other players. So you are basically screaming for people to attack you if you open up all these resources. And I know that's not really how it works, but like in the early game, it's the Wild West, man, until your state is singing Kumbaya and everybody's on board and happy with each other. If you have a bunch of resources open and you get scouted and someone's like, hey, yo, let's zero this guy. They got, 100 million resources or 1 billion resources open, right? Like, yeah, you're going to get wrecked. And you'll very quickly learn when you start needing resources that like, oh yeah, you would totally want to attack somebody who's got like 100 million plus resources, depending on your temperament as a player, right? Like you would totally want to hit somebody that's got tons of resources open. So don't do that. You're just literally setting yourself up to get completely wrecked. You are making yourself look appetizing for attacking, which you do not want to get attacked. And I think the number one tip here, which is going to be really obvious at this point, but this is a team game. So get into literally the best team you possibly can. And don't waste time in it anywhere else, let me tell you. Get into the best team you possibly can. And, there's several ways that you can do that. But, I just was chatting with somebody who wanted to join us. And like, what are the things I want to hear from somebody who wants to join us? I want to hear that they are active and can define that to some degree. And that they can follow instructions. I'm like, if you're it's a low bar, y'all. It's a low bar. But if you can demonstrate quickly, like I'm active and I can follow instructions, I know how to be a rally joiner. Like if the alliance leader knows how to play the game, they'll be like, come on in. And they'll give you a test run, right? And then you need to earn your spot. GG. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. I had a lot of fun putting together the tips and tricks for this video. And honestly, I've really enjoyed sort of getting to this point in the game where I know what these things are. But I've only gotten to Generation 2. I'm only like 5.5 weeks into the game. So I'm going to keep producing videos every day, every other day. Maybe sometimes I'll do a YouTube short to help you get value and smash your enemies, which is the tagline for my channel. So I hope that you'll smash the subscribe button. And if you want to watch another video that I think you'll find entertaining, you go check out the video I promised you where I spent 1.5 million gems in a single run. It was like less than 3 minutes. I spent 1.5 million gems and I explain exactly why I did it. I show you like the double or triple dip I was getting, and it was beautiful. I was getting VIP. I think I was getting, oh, it was a triple dip. I was getting event points. Okay. And I was also getting an event currency, which I could turn into speed ups. It was so good. Watch the vid. You're going to enjoy it. All right. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Genuinely. Subscribe, throw a like on here. I'll see you in the next one.